What is up, heroes? This is Midnight Zero, and welcome back to the NCPL Season 4. This is Week 11. We are going up against Evan, coach of the Brighton Bronzors. I'll preface this by saying that Evan and I didn't really get off on the best first foot. Little salt between the two of us, I'd imagine, trying to move on and everything, and it's been improving since then. But in that sense, I am definitely looking to win this match. As far as context goes, right, we're getting close to the end of the regular season. We have this match against Evan. Next week we are playing Manu, who is currently in second place, and the week after that we are scheduled to play Still, coach of the Kling Klangs, but he has actually gone completely MIA for the past weeks, so all of his matches have become a forfeit. So realistically we only have this battle and then our next battle against Manu, and then the playoffs. At this point, we have guaranteed a seat in the playoffs, and if we win one of our next two matches, just one of them, we guarantee a first round bye. For those of you that are familiar with sports, you'll understand this sort of concept, but if not, basically the top 6 teams are making playoffs. How it's going to work is there are going to be 2 rounds to the playoffs. In the first round, the 3rd seed and the 6th seed will play, and the 4th seed and the 5th seed will play, while the first 2 seeds, because they were the first 2 seeds, get to sit that round out. And then in the second round of the playoffs, the 1st seed will play whoever won from the first round that was the lower seed, and the 2nd seed will play whoever won from the first round that was the higher seed. And we are guaranteed to be either 1st or 2nd seed if we win one of these 2 matches. If we beat Manu next week, we are guaranteed 1st seed in the league, which is really cool. So that's what we're aiming for at the moment. Regardless, let's get into Evan's team. Evan's team is not super great, but he did make some adjustments when he got it from Coach Firesnow, coach of the New York Aqua Jets, and improved it a bit in my opinion. He picked up Mega Alakazam, which is definitely a very threatening mon. It's, you know, got massive base 175 special attack, Stab Psychic, blazing 150 speed, unlike Scyther, you know, but it hits hard. It relies on Focus Blast, which kind of sucks, but it can run some shenanigans, you know, sub Encore and Shadow Ball and Psychic, and you know, that sort of thing, avoid priority and all. It's really frail on the physical side, and that's really where you kind of have to take advantage of it. Next up is Manaphy, his Z-Mon, I believe, yeah, Z-Captain. It is a scary mon to deal with. Tail Glow Manaphy is so powerful. It has access to stuff like Energy Ball, Surf, Scald, Psychic, Ice Beam, Tail Glow, Z Rain Dance, you know, Hydro Vortex, right? Shattered Psyche for all we know. It's got a lot of options available, and thanks to, you know, its base 100 all-around stats, it's got great natural bulk no matter what it does, and it's got great natural offenses no matter what it does. So definitely a scary mon to prep for, definitely a difficult mon to deal with. Next up is Alolan Ninetales, which is really just great for Aurora Veil. Honestly, that's what brings it up here. It's got, you know, great dual stabs in Moonblast and Blizzard. You know, Hail can chip away at things, but it's really there for Aurora Veil. It can run some interesting sets with Hypnosis, and Aurora Veil, Encore, Freeze Dry is something worth noting, but it doesn't have a stellar special attack to use, so yeah. Next up is Silvally. I don't know how to prep for Silvally. It can be any type. There's no restriction there, so it's really just going to be anticipate what kind of type I think he is based on Team Preview. I'm not going to make the mistake of assuming he's normal based on how it appears in Team Preview, but just kind of anticipate what kind of a Silvally he'll bring and play around it. It's very similar to prepping for Mew. Next up is Eyeguard. Eyeguard is surprisingly better than you anticipate. Manu didn't like it. It's a bit more of a bulky, you know, dragon bulky setup sweeper potentially. It can trap things with 1000 waves. It hits all things with 1000 arrows, and it's got a decent attack stat, and it's got great natural bulk, so that allows it to set up with either Coil or Dragon Dance. It can run great sub-toxic sets. It's got a lot of flexibility with how it works. It can also run some interesting special attacks too. One thing worth noting is Sludge Wave. You know, Bulu would typically be a great counter to Zygarde. Obviously immune to Dragon and grassy terrain, cutting, well, potentially Earthquake, but I mean naturally resisting ground and being immune to Dragon. You'd imagine Bulu would be a great switch into Zygarde, but if he does bring Zygarde, I anticipate Sludge Wave being run on it. Next up is Mortar, and Mortar is really just kind of an all-around coverage sort of mon. It's got, you know, kind of all over the place stats, except it's got a really nice special attack stat, and it can actually take advantage of it decently well. Fire Blast, Thunderbolt, Focus Blast, Hidden Power, and you've got some great coverage there. It can run Earthquake as well to hit on the physical side, but typically runs AV or Life Orb offensive. Next up is Umbreon. Umbreon is really kind of a pain to deal with. It's really, really bulky. Base 110 defense, 130 SPDEF, and 95 HP. It's a great Wish Passer, uses Foul Play, Toxic, really kind of a stall passive mon, and it's really good at what it does. Difficult to take down. Next up is Stakataka. Stakataka is a really fun name to say, but it's an interesting mon. It can be a great Trick Room sweeper, and I think that's really where it shines. It's, you know, got base 211 defense, but it's got base 131 attack and great stabs in Gyro Ball and Stone Edge, actually, because it's base 13 speed. Those Gyro Balls are always really incredibly powerful, so definitely a sweeper worth noting. Next up is Dragalge. Dragalge, it hits really hard with adaptability Dracos and Sludge Waves. Whether it's Specs or Life Orb, it just hits really hard. Outside of that, I think it gets Flamethrower, which is an interesting coverage move, definitely worth noting given my fire weaknesses. And it can also get up T-Spikes, which are something I like to use, but hardly ever have to deal with myself. Next up is Staraptor, and Staraptor is really just a wall breaker. Base 120 attack, but thanks to Reckless and Brave Bird and Double Edge, you know, Stab, base 120 moves with secondary effects and thus boosted by Reckless, potentially a Band or a Life Orb on top of that. Oof. Staraptor hits hard, so definitely going to want to watch out for that. Mandibuzz, another difficult mon, bulky mon to take down. Just look at its natural bulk, access to reliable recovery and Roost. It can defog things, it can taunt things, I believe. It can use Foul Play, it can knock off Toxic. It's really kind of a pain to take down in my opinion. Then there's Gardevoir, which is surprisingly strong. Surprisingly strong. It's, you know, fallen victim to power creep over the previous generations, but it hits an okay speed tier. It's really an ideal Scarf user this generation, and I think with its dual stab and potential coverage and stuff like Thunderbolts, that's where it's really going to shine. Next up would be Breloom. Breloom, I actually really hate going against Breloom just because it's so offensively present in addition to having access to Spore. I don't think he's going to bring it given my team with stuff like Shaman and Bulu and, you know, Gliscor. A lot of these mons that can take its stabs pretty well or be immune to Spore and that sort of thing. You know, I think, what is it? Bulu resists both of its stabs and is immune to Spore. So there's a lot of stuff like it. Also gets Zen Headbutt and potentially Shattered Psyche because it is my Z-mon. But yeah, it's a scary mon to deal with. Can run Poison Heal, Sub, Focus Punch, Mach Punch, Bullet Seed, Force Palm, Spore, a lot of stuff. And then lastly is Empoleon, great defogger and rocker. It can run physically offensive, Aqua Jet, Waterfall, which is interesting. It can run, you know, very defensive sets. It can run Hydro Pump. It's got great mixed bulk and offenses that make it a pretty versatile mon in my opinion. And yeah, that's the team. It's not a perfect team by any means, but it's certainly not a bad one, and it definitely has its mons that are centralizing the prep process, which always make it difficult. So with that being said, let's get into our team this week. We are going to be starting off with, I guess because it's the first mon to show, Bronzong. We are running a max SPDEF Bronzong with Gyro Ball, EQ, Toxic, and Rocks. Wasn't too creative with EVs, but I really needed something to take special hits, and its typing is just really helpful for stuff like Stakataka, Dragalge, Staraptor, you know, resisting both of its stabs, being immune to one of Dragalge's stabs and resisting the other, resisting both of Stakataka's stabs, and because of its Levitate, probably being immune to its coverage move as well, resisting both of Gardevoir's stabs. It's pretty great in that sense, you know, resisting both of Ninetales' stabs, and even, you know, resisting Alakazam's Psychics quadruply. It's really good in that sense, just typing wise. As far as like special attacks go, I need it to be able to potentially take Manaphy to get off a Toxic, and potentially Gardevoir's Thunderbolts or Magmortar's Fire Blasts, potentially Empoleon Scalds, maybe Mega Alakazam Shadow Ball if necessary. But typing wise, it really handles the physical mons, you know, regardless of how much physical defense I invest. So that's the rationale there. Gyro Ball to hit anything faster than it, and especially those, you know, ice and fairy types, and Earthquake to hit all of those steel and rock types or poison types that it is faster than. And it gets up rocks pretty consistently, and it can toxic most of the dark types that are bulky and potentially want to switch in on it. So that's the rationale there. Next up is going to be actually the first mon that I figured I wanted to bring, and that is Raikou. We haven't brought Raikou in a while, but really I looked at his team and I thought, I need something that outspeeds Manaphy. Absolutely, I need to outspeed Manaphy, and I need to be able to handle that mon. So here we are with CM, or sub-CM Raikou. It does a lot of damage with Thunderbolt, and that's really what this comes down to. It does a lot of damage with Thunderbolt to literally everything except for Dragalge and Zygarde and Breloom. And guess what? They're all weak to Hidden Power Ice. So naturally, this coverage covers a lot of his team. I can set up on a lot of things, and at +1, I'm doing quite a bit of damage to most of his team, at least punching holes in his team. With Substitute, I could potentially, I guess, hedge my bets a little bit better so that I don't risk, you know, Thunderbolting into a Scarf Zygarde or wasting a turn in that sense. But yeah, it threatens out a lot of things. It potentially takes Brave Birds from Staraptor. It can take Gyro Balls from Stakataka. It can at least take 1 hit from most things, 2 hits from a lot of other things. I have just enough speed to outspeed Alolan Ninetales, and the rest goes into HP, which is really helpful because I think I take Psychics from Mega Alakazam decently well, which is pretty surprising. And yeah, I can set up on quite a few things. If something wants to try and Toxic me, I can, you know, get up a Substitute. That could be potentially Mandibuzz or Umbreon or Empoleon. I set up on that as well. It's a good mon. And I can potentially Pressure Stall if absolutely necessary, which is always an option, but that's the rationale behind Raikou. Next up is going to be Life Orb Garchomp. It is another threatening set. It's got enough speed to outspeed all the relevant threats, his base 100 mons essentially, and Earthquake, Dragon Claw, and Poison Jab just for the coverage. Honestly, looking at his team, I wanted something, again, that could hit hard against Manaphy, against Zygarde, against Silvally, against Magmortar. His mons, from like a speed tier standpoint, really only reach 100, and then after that there's, you know, Ninetales, and then there's Mega Alakazam. So there's not a lot of stratification of his speed tiers, which makes it easy to prep for particular speed tiers. And yeah, Garchomp, when you look at the typing on his team, you know, outside of things that take it neutrally, like Mandibuzz or Umbreon, Garchomp is hitting everything really hard. And on an anticipated switch to Umbreon or Mandibuzz, I SD, and then I take that out too. So Garchomp comes in, and it pretty much gets a kill every time it's in. And if not, it does a lot of damage to whatever comes in. So that's the rationale here. Also, Garchomp is just naturally bulky. It can naturally take 1 hit from most mons and hit back really hard in return. So it should be putting in quite a bit of work. And you'll notice that my team is a little bit more offensive than normal this time around. But as I say that, the next mon we've got is Physically Defensive Mega Scizor, much like it's the exact same set as last week. It's a very standard Mega Scizor that runs Physically Defensive. It's there for Zygarde, it's there for Stakataka, it's there for the immunities. The same reason, you know, the Steel typing with Bronzong is good. It's great for Mega Scizor as well. It's not weak to Shadow Ball like Bronzong is. I do need to watch out for Hidden Power Fires, of course, but also Bullet Punch as a priority is great for doing damage to Alolan Ninetales, to Mega Alakazam, of course, to Staraptor, to Gardevoir, and of course Momentum with U-Turn is always appreciated. So that's the rationale behind Scizor. It's pretty straightforward. Scizor could definitely put in work this week, depending on, you know, if we weaken the necessary mons beforehand. Magmortar, Empoleon, those mons are weakened down or taken out. Scizor sweep is very possible again this week. Next up is going to be... Ooh, music's going to change. Should still be from Blue Reflection, if I recall correctly. Yep. Okay, so the next mon is going to be Porygon 2. Again, very straightforward set, near max Spadef. Ice Beam, or Bolt Beam, Toxic, and Recover. What's really cool is actually with this SPDEF investment, it's very specific. I take 2+3 Surfs from Timid Max Special Attack Manaphy from full, which is really cool. So I can potentially take on that Mon and do a decent amount of damage back with Thunderbolt or Toxic if I can afford it. I'm taking on Mega Alakazam decently well because I think I take like 58% max from Focus Blast. Given Focus Blast 70% accuracy and the fact that I have Recover, I am likely to outlast his Focus Blasts, which is really nice. I can Toxic most things. I don't want to Toxic Umbreon though because of Synchronize. And yeah, Bolt Beam coverage is just really good against this team. I wanted something that's a mixed wall, can take on some physical hits, but honestly takes on all of his special attacks decently well. It's a very nice Blobmon that takes a lot of pressure off of the rest of my team. So that's why it's there. Next up is going to be the last Mon, coming back for the first time in a while, Mimikyu. We're bringing a Life Orb, SD, Shadow Sneak, Shadow Claw, Play Rough set, Jolly, Max Attack. Honestly, actually, you know what I should do is I'm going to change this to 249 because that will optimize our Life Orb numbers, and I'm going to put a little bit into SPDEF because we're already naturally a bit more SPDEF bulky. So those would be the hits I plan on taking already. But why Mimikyu? Looking at its speed, it's 96 speed. Why is that important? Zygarde hits 95, Silvally hits 95. What is it? You know, Magmortar's 83, Gardevoir is 80, Breloom is 70. It hits just fast enough to be relevant and outspeed some of, you know, the bigger threats on his team, Silvally and Zygarde potentially. So I like having that speed tier covered. I also like having Shadow Sneak for Mega Alakazam or potentially Gardevoir. You'll notice there's a decent amount of priority on this team because I'm not running a Scarf user, so I don't have as much speed control. As far as Play Rough goes, it hits Umbreon, it hits Mandibuzz really hard, it hits his defensive cores really hard. The only thing it doesn't really hit too hard is Stakataka, and at +2, it's doing about 40% with Shadow Claw. So after a little bit of chip, after some weakening, it can potentially break through that too, especially if I have my Disguise up, right? I SD, and then he switches in Stakataka, and I get 2+2 Shadow Claws off, doing a minimum of 80%. So Mimikyu sweep is actually pretty possible too. And I was considering Will-O-Wisp actually on the anticipated Stakataka switch-ins, but it was far too specific, and I would much rather, more often than not, go for a Swords Dance to have that extra power. You know, at +2, I'm knocking out Mandibuzz. At neutral, I'm doing about 70% to Umbreon. +2 Shadow Sneak is doing a ton to Mega Alakazam. It hits really hard, and it might get opportunities to set up depending on how risky he wants to play. You'll notice that that's a theme with this particular team. Another thing is, because it's naturally especially bulky, it doesn't let Manaphy set up for free. I think Play Rough does 84% minimum if he wants to try and set up on me, right? So that's 2 Play Roughs. I didn't make that clear. It does like 42% minimum with 1 attack. There we go. So if he wants to try and set up on me, he really can't. And the other thing is the typing. It's an immunity to Dragon, and it's also an immunity to Normal and Fighting. So I threaten Breloom, or at least make it think twice about going for Mach Punch or Focus Punch. Same with Staraptor and Double Edge, forcing it to go for Brave Bird more often than not. Shadow Balls from Alakazam. They need to worry about that. And you'll notice that with this nice little core we have going on between Porygon 2, Mimikyu, and Bronzong, we have Porygon 2, which is weak to fighting, Mimikyu, which is immune to fighting, we have Bronzong, which is weak to Ghost, and we have Porygon 2 that's immune to Ghost. So all of them play their own role in this sort of core that force the opponent to think twice about which move they're going to go for. Am I going to switch out? Especially given these Mons can do quite a bit of damage and punish back if he gets that wrong, and can afford to recover, in Porygon 2's case, if I get it wrong. So that's kind of the rationale there. This team is a bit more offensive than I would like. I really only have, you know, Bronzong, Porygon 2, and Scizor to rely on as more of a defensive backbone, and my offense is typically setup offense that can at least take 1 hit and hopefully knock out what he has. So It's not, you know, Toxapex and Bulu and Scizor and Bronzong and Porygon 2 really bulky, reliable backbone defense with, you know, a lot of Toxic or T-Spikes or something like that. So it's a little bit outside my comfort zone. I didn't spend as much time on this as I would have liked to, but honestly, I think the team is good enough, and I am trying to step back from things. I've been getting pretty stressed out lately, so I'm trying to take a step back, enjoy things a bit more, and not get ridiculously nervous or stressed out about team building, or let team building, you know, interfere with other aspects of my life. Even though I find team building really fun, it can be incredibly stressful at times. Borderline getting tension headaches at times. But yeah, that's the team so far. Let's hope we win this one. If we win this, we guarantee get a bye. And what's really interesting is if we do win this match, we guarantee a first round bye, which means we'll have our match against Evan, we'll have our match against Manu. The last week of the regular season, we will have a forfeit win. And then there will be a week break before playoffs. And then the first round of playoffs, we have a bye. So we'll have a 3-week break before our first, and hopefully not last, playoff match if we win this matchup. So, pretty interesting situation. I hope you guys are looking forward to the battle. But until then, this has been Night Zero, and this mission is complete.